The apocalypse is a ubiquitous setting in video games, from early games like Wasteland and Fallout, to newer editions like Days Gone and Death Stranding. The apocalypse has always been a beloved setting for games. There's something so entertaining about the freedom that stems from total governmental collapse. After all, no government means no rules, and no rules means infinite possibilities. The game we're talking about today, however, is different, because it doesn't take place during the apocalypse, but it sure feels like it. Stalker. So how did Stalker come to be? What makes the Chernobyl exclusion zone the perfect setting for a video game? And what's the deal with Cheeky Breeky? The story of Stalker doesn't begin with a video game. It begins with a book. In 1971, Russian authors Arkady and Boris Strugatsky wrote a book called Roadside Picnic. The book was then published in 1972 and became one of the brothers' most accomplished novels. The book is set in a world where aliens visited Earth and then promptly left, leaving visitation zones where they landed. These zones, as they became called, were filled with alien technology left behind from the visit. The zones were also filled with so-called anomalies, dangerous materials and occurrences bordering on the supernatural. One example is the so-called hell slime, which melts the bones of anyone unfortunate enough to fall into it. The technology and anomalies left behind by the aliens are highly valued, and thus people began illegally venturing into the zone to collect these so-called artifacts to sell them for profit. These people became known as Stalkers. The book follows the exploit of a stalker named Redrick Red Schwart, a former stalker who has turned his life around and has started working illegally with scientists to retrieve artifacts from the zone. Everything turns for the worst when a retrieval mission goes awry, and Red falls back into the stalker life. The book was adapted into the movie in 1979, simply called Stalker. The movie mostly follows the plot of the book, but does change it in a few ways. It seemed as though Roadside Picnic's relevance would end here, but one game studio by the name of GSC Game World ensured this would not be the last we would hear about the world created by the Strugatsky brothers. GSC Game World was founded in 1995 by Sergei Grigorovich. In 2001, GSC Game World released their first game, Cossacks: European Wars, an isometric RTS set in 17th and 18th century Europe. GSC continued to develop Cossacks games until 2016, when they released the most recent entry into the series, Cossacks 3. In 2001, GSC Game World also announced a game called Stalker: Oblivion Lost, which was set to release in 2003. The release date was pushed back several times, leaving many to believe that the game would simply not come out. In 2003, a pre-alpha build of the game was released, as a sort of tech demo for the game. Because of the game missing its initial release date, Dean Sharpie, who would later become the CEO of 4A Games, developers of Metro, was sent by the publisher, THQ, to oversee the cutting of many features from the game that would be shifted into a possible sequel. In February of 2007, GSC released a public beta of the game, followed by a multiplayer demo in March. The game was released on the 20th of March 2007 under the name Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl. The game saw great success and was praised for its unique gameplay and setting. Due to the popularity of the first game, GSC released a sequel called Stalker: Clear Sky on the 22nd of August 2008. The game expanded upon and improved many aspects of the first game, and saw success as a result. Despite its success, Clear Sky would become the strange middle child of the Stalker series, that is neither adored nor abhorred. A third game was released on the 2nd of October 2009 under the name Stalker: Call of Pripyat. The game received great praise for being the most stable Stalker game, containing the least amount of bugs and glitches, something the previous two entries were famous for. Call of Pripyat quickly became the favorite child in the Stalker family. Of course, everything is still up to personal taste, and each game has people who say it is their favorite in the series. Of course, all good things must come to an end. In 2009, GSC began work on Stalker 2. During development, financial hardship shrunk the company down to about 50 employees, and on the 9th of December 2011, Sergei Grigorovich officially dissolved GSC Game World. In 2014, however, GSC reopened and announced a new game. In 2015, it was revealed that GSC was working on Cossacks 3, a remake of the first Cossacks. Cossacks 3 was released in 2016. In May of 2018, to the joy of Stalker fans all around the globe, GSC announced that they were once again working on Stalker 2, and the game would likely release in 2021. So that brings us today. with Stalker 2 confirmed to release in April 2022. That's the history of the game, but what is the game like? The Stalker games take place in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the area surrounding the site of the 1986 Chernobyl disaster. If you do not already know what the Chernobyl disaster is, on April 26, 1986, Chernobyl nuclear power plant reactor 4 experienced the meltdown due to the poor safety features it had and a test that pushed the reactor to its limit. The disaster is depicted in the 2019 HBO miniseries Chernobyl, a good watch if you want to learn more about the disaster. Due to the heavy radiation from the accident, a 1,000 square mile exclusion zone was set up around the power plant, leaving the Ukrainian city of Pripyat abandoned. In the Stalker universe, a second explosion in 2006 happens to the abandoned power plant. This time, however, it is not just radiation that is released during the explosion. The blast morphs the exclusion zone into an entirely different environment. Anomalies, strange occurrences involving the zone's environment, start appearing. In addition to this, artifacts appear around the affected area, except this time the artifacts are not the result of an alien visitation, but the strange explosion that happened at the power plant. Just like in the novel, these artifacts have special properties that can be utilized for various uses. For example, the artifact known as Bubble removes radiation from the wearer. The second explosion is what gives Stalker its apocalyptic setting. The area around the plant that was transformed becomes known as the Zone. In response to the creation of the zone, the Ukrainian government sent in the army to stop civilians from entering the zone. But, with the artifacts having such unique properties, they became highly valued. Because of this, people started to venture into the zone to find these artifacts and sell them for profit. Sound familiar? Just like in the novel, these people become known as Stalkers. However, unlike the novel, these Stalkers don't simply sneak in and out of the zone, they live in it. Stalkers find these artifacts and sell them to merchants, who then either smuggle the artifacts out of the zone to be sold to buyers, or sell them to other Stalkers. While in the zone, Stalkers have to worry about intense radiation as a result of the explosion. Stalkers also have to worry about deadly anomalies, such as the terrifying whirligig, which picks up its victims, sending them high into the air, then spinning them at high speed until the victim breaks into pieces. If anomalies and radiation weren't enough, the zone is also home to a number of mutant animals. These animals have been morphed by both heavy radiation and anomalous activity. Some of these creatures have unique anomalous properties, such as the Psydog's ability to create fake replicas of itself to confuse attackers. But one of the most deadly aspects of the zone is the people living within it. Stalker falls into the category of first-person shooter and survival horror. Stalker has a large variety of weapons to play with, ensuring the player doesn't get bored with the same gun. The game also features a variety of armors that protect the player from ballistic and anomalous danger. The player also has access to many healing items that keep the player alive on their journeys. What makes Stalker unique are the artifacts found throughout the zone. Artifacts may give boosts to the player's stats, or may have a unique power, like the ability to take away radiation. Artifacts also often have a negative effect to go along with the positive effect, meaning the player has to weigh the pros and cons of wearing certain artifacts. Throughout the game, the player encounters many other Stalkers living in the zone. These other Stalkers can be spoken to and traded with, however the player will want to do the majority of their trading with the designated trader in the region to get the best profit. The game has multiple difficulties and it can be quite challenging on higher difficulties. This allows for both players who are looking for a challenge and players who are not to enjoy the game. The player encounters many different factions inside of the zone, some of which the player can work with and earn the favor of. The zone is home to several factions, all with their own goals and views of how the zone should be handled. These factions often engage in conflict with each other, leading to the faction war mechanics seen in Clear Sky, which we will talk about later. The first major faction within the zone is the Loners, also known as the Free Stalkers, Neutral Stalkers, or simply called Stalkers. The Loners are a group of Stalkers who simply work to survive in the zone while also making a profit. The Loners sometimes form into more organized groups, as shown in Clear Sky and call it Pripyat. The Loners are generally neutral to other factions, except for the Bandits, the sworn enemy of the Loners. In all three games, the loners will be initially neutral to the playable character. The next faction within the zone is the aforementioned Bandits. The Bandits kill, loot, and rob their way through the zone. Bandits range from petty thugs to organized crime syndicates. In general, the faction is highly disorganized, and any attempt to organize often falls apart due to infighting. The Bandits also have a catchphrase, "Ano chikibriki is damke," which has become an internet meme. The Bandits are hostile to most factions in Shadow of Chernobyl and Clear Sky, but neutral to most factions in Call of Pripyat. In Shadow of Chernobyl, the Bandits are hostile to the playable character, but in Clear Sky and Call of Pripyat, they are neutral and the player can even gain the favor of their faction. One of the largest and most well-equipped factions within the zone is Duty. Duty is made up of former military members and stalkers who are concerned with the horrors of the zone, and want to destroy or contain it before it spreads. Duty is highly organized and operates as a real army. Duty has a strict code of conduct, and members of Duty are divided into ranks such as Sergeant, Major, Captain, and General. Because of their size and organization, they are one of the best equipped factions within the zone, having access to exoskeletons and advanced assault rifles. Duty is neutral to all factions except for the Bandits and their longtime enemy Freedom. In all three games, Duty will be neutral to the player, and the player can gain Duty's favor. The sworn enemy of Duty is Freedom. In simple terms, Freedom are the anarchists of the zone. They believe the zone should be free for all to enter and live inside. Their ideology clashes with Duty's belief that the zone should be closed off and destroyed, and thus, Duty and Freedom are sworn enemies. Members of Freedom do not have to follow a strict code like those in Duty. For instance, members of Freedom often refer to each other as bro. The faction is also notorious for the large-scale use of cannabis among its members. Freedom is generally neutral to most factions except for the Bandits and Duty. In all three games, Freedom will be neutral, and the player can gain Freedom's favor. Another faction within the zone is the military. The Ukrainian military was sent into the zone to prevent anyone from entering and looting artifacts or other radioactive or anomalous materials. They have a shoot-on-sight rule for anyone seen entering or living inside of the zone. However, there's a very large amount of corruption within the military's ranks. The sale of artifacts is incredibly profitable, and the military members wanted in on the profits. Despite their job to keep artifacts from leaving the zone, the military are the ones who allow for artifacts to leave the zone and be sold. To keep the appearance that they fight against stalking, the military is hostile to all stalkers. In all three games, the military is hostile to all other factions. In Shadow of Chernobyl and Clear Sky, the military are hostile to the playable character. In Call of Pripyat, the player plays as a military agent, and thus the military ranges from neutral to friendly. Many people in the zone are entirely focused on turning a profit. This is where the Mercenary Faction comes in. The Mercenaries are a private military operating in the zone. They will do just about any job if the price is right. Mercenaries are usually neutral to other factions, as those factions are the employers of the mercenaries. Shadow of Chernobyl, all mercenaries are hostile, as the mercenaries in Shadow of Chernobyl are employed by an outside source. In both Clear Sky and Call of Pripyat, mercenaries can be both neutral and hostile. The player cannot join the mercenaries in any of the games. The zone is an ecological mystery, and because of that, scientists have been sent to study it. The ecologists are Ukrainian scientists sent into the zone to study it on behalf of the government. The military are the chosen protectors of the ecologists, but because of the military's slipping grasp on the zone, the ecologists often have to seek out help from mercenaries, loners, or Duty and Freedom for protection. In all three games, the ecologists are neutral to all other factions and are unjoinable. Like the ecologists, Clear Sky is another faction that dedicates itself to studying the mysteries of the zone. Clear Sky is the most secretive faction in the zone. Most people don't even know of their existence. Clear Sky is made up of ecologists, ex-military, and stalkers who have devoted their lives to studying the zone and figuring out a way to either contain or destroy the zone. The faction only exists in Stalker Clear Sky, hence the name of the game. The faction does not have much interaction with other factions, so it is hard to determine their level of hostility to other factions. But it is known that Clear Sky are openly hostile to Bandits and Renegades, along with the military. Clear Sky is always neutral to friendly to the player because the player is always an unofficial member of the faction. One of the smallest and weakest factions in the game is the Renegades. The Renegades are made up of Stalkers unaffiliated with other major factions and cast-outs from these major factions. The Renegades work in the same way as Bandits, by robbing and exploiting others. However, they are even less organized than the Bandits. They are the only other faction that lives in the swamps besides Clear Sky, and just like Clear Sky, they are not present for any other games. The Renegades just act as easy target practice for the player when they begin the game. The final faction of the zone is arguably the most mysterious. The Monolith Faction was initially made out of Stalkers who believed in the power of the mysterious Wish-Granter, a strange crystalline monolith in the center of the zone, inside of the Chernobyl sarcophagus. Prior to the events of Clear Sky, the faction made a mass exodus to the center of the zone with the hope of finding the Wish-Granter. During the events of Clear Sky, the faction becomes active again and begins skirmishing with other factions within the zone. Monolith are the soldiers of the Wish-Granter. They have a fanatical devotion to the Monolith and will obey any order and complete any objective at any cost. They are hostile to all factions and the player in all 3 games. In Shadow of Chernobyl, you play as the Marked One, a stalker brought into the zone on one of the mysterious death trucks, strange trucks that bring stalkers into the zone. Most of the time, the stalkers on these trucks die, giving the trucks their names. The truck the Marked One is being carried on is struck by lightning and crashes. An unnamed stalker known as Savior saves the Marked One from the truck and brings him to the trader in the region named Sidorovich. Sidorovich finds a PDA on the Marked One that simply says, "Killed the Stray-Lock." The Marked One wakes up and grabs the PDA back from Sidorovich. Sidorovich promises to help the Marked One find Stray-Lock as long as the Marked One assists him. The Marked One agrees and his journey begins. Being the first Stalker game, Shadow of Chernobyl is also the least polished. The game has frequent crashes, glitches galore, and feels rushed in some places, mainly because it is. Shadow of Chernobyl is certainly the most linear out of the 3 games. Despite being technically open world, Shadow of Chernobyl does not offer a whole lot of movement. The map is very much shaped so that as long as the player is moving forward, they will progress to the next objective. Despite its flaws, Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl is still a great classic that brought forth an incredibly fun and unique game series. Clear Sky is a direct prequel to Shadow of Chernobyl. In Clear Sky, you play as a mercenary named Scar. While on the job escorting a group of ecologists through the zone, a massive emission goes off, knocking you unconscious. You are found by members of the Clear Sky faction, who bring you to their base and bring you back to health. Soon after you wake up, you are sent to help defend a Clear Sky outpost when another large emission happens. The leader of Clear Sky explains to you that you must have some special powers to survive that large of an emission. He also explains that you seem to get stronger after each emission, but each emission also damages your nervous system, meaning you need to stop the large emissions from occurring or you will die. The leader of Clear Sky explains that he thinks the problem has been caused by someone reaching the center of the zone. Clear Sky is much more stable, having fewer crashes and glitches than Shadow of Chernobyl. It also has more content, such as the Faction War system, that allows the player to side with a faction and help that faction grow and take control of more of the zone. Clear Sky is a mix between more linear gameplay and more open world gameplay, with some areas being very linear and others being very open. With this in mind, one might wonder why Clear Sky isn't liked more. The answer lies in Clear Sky's flaws. The game isn't as innovative as either Shadow of Chernobyl or Call of Pripyat. Clear Sky also has the infamous grenade spam problem, where enemies will constantly lob grenades at the player with extreme accuracy, causing the player to die very often in an unfair way. Despite this, Clear Sky is still a very solid game that holds a replay value even today. Call of Pripyat is a direct sequel to Shadow of Chernobyl. In Call of Pripyat, you play as Major Alexander Dektyrev of the Security Service of Ukraine, or USS, who has been sent into the zone undercover to investigate the mysterious crashes of 5 attack helicopters that have been sent into the zone to establish a military foothold there. Call of Pripyat is the most stable Stalker, having the least crashes and glitches. It is also the most open-world-like game in the series, having 3 open-world areas for its map. Call of Pripyat was also extremely innovative in how its Stalker was played, and is considered by many to be the greatest Stalker game ever made. Due to how easily moddable the Stalker games are, many mods have been developed for the game. some to fix the problems with the base game like crashes and bugs, and some that take the games and turn them into something completely different. The support of the modding community is often credited for keeping the Stalker series alive throughout all these years. One of the most impressive Stalker mods is Stalker Anomaly, a mod for Stalker Call of Pripyat that turns it into a completely new game. These dedicated modders have kept the Stalker series alive with new content and bug fixes for old games, allowing the games to stay relevant even without any official new content. Cheeky Breeky is the catchphrase of the Bandit faction. Bandits will yell the phrase during battle as a sort of war cry. The phrase is also used to signal that a bandit is flanking the player. Interestingly, the phrase has no direct translation. The closest translation is, 1-2, you're on top, referring to making a king in checkers. This could be a reference to how the bandit gains an advantage in battle by flanking the player. The truth is, the phrase more than likely is simply gibberish that was chosen as the catchphrase for the bandits. I would wager that most people watching this video have heard the phrase Cheeky Breeky, even if they haven't actually played or even heard of the Stalker games. This is because the phrase Cheeky Breeky spread from being a meme among only the Stalker community to being a more widespread meme. YouTuber Life of Boris has also helped popularize the term and turn it into a phrase that describes the stereotypical Russian or Slav. The term is now used to represent the Slavic stereotype of an AK-wielding, vodka-drinking gopnik. Of course, Cheeky Breeky doesn't mean that at all, and is simply the battle cry of some very angry bandits. From a book written in 1971 to a game made in 2007, all the way until today, the concept of Stalker has remained relevant. The zone and its fields of anomalies give a sense of mystery and intrigue that is rarely captured in video games. With Stalker 2 releasing in less than a year, now is a great time to give these games a try, or revisit them if you've already played. After all, you can take a Stalker out of the zone, you can never take the zone out of a Stalker. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something new. Until next time, good hunting, Stalker.